Hi, I'm Jatsy. You don't know me and that's okay. In the last video, I showed you how to import a new outfit for your avatar, set that up, and kind of get that set as your default outfit. I also showed you how to delete meshes and bones that you don't really want anymore. Today we're going to go over some toggles. So things like being able to turn your tool shelves on and off, being able to turn individual parts of an outfit on and off, and if we have enough time, we'll import another outfit and show you how to cycle between different outfits. So let me put you guys inside my head and we'll get back to work. So here we have the model that we worked on yesterday. I didn't adjust any of the blend shapes. This is kind of just after we got the outfit on. Nothing to worry about for right now. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to set up stuff within our context menu to give us like this new button that I have here on mine and some of these options in here. So over here I have an inspector that's kind of opened up onto the root node of the avatar. So I'm going to go ahead and select that root node. I'm going to create a new child of the root node, and we're going to name this, could be toggles, customizations, whatever you want to name it. So let me go ahead and do that. Toggles. Now, under toggles, you're going to do attach component. You're going to go to Radiant UI, context menu, root context menu item. We're also going to need a context menu item source and a context menu submenu. I'll pull this up here. So here you can see we have a couple components that we've just added into the toggle slot. Don't worry that name hasn't changed yet. It will once we're done updating. So under the root context menu item, we're going to physically grab context menu item source, and we're going to drop that under item. Under label, we're just going to copy this to say whatever we name the slot. Again, whatever you want to name it. If you want to change the color of the button, I leave mine white, but if you want to change the color, you can do that there where it says color. And then under context menu submenu, we are going to take the toggles slot, so the actual slot, and we're going to make that the root of the context menu submenu. What that's going to do is that's going to give you the button here, and then we're going to build this part of it here, but it gives you that initial button and kind of like the next step in it, so to speak. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a child of this slot that we just made. And first we're going to set up the toggle for our tool shelves. So I'm just going to call this slot tool shelf. Tool shelf. So on the tool shelf slot, we're going to attach a couple components. Get rid of the old component browser. So within the component browser, we're going to go to two different sections. The first one, though, is going to be Radiant UI, where we went before, context menu, and context menu item source. We're going to go back, and now we're going to go under common UI. We're going to go under drivers, value option description driver. It might hurt the first time that it opens it. Now, you're going to see a bunch of different options here. There's three kind of like main ones to worry about. There's bool, which is right here. Bool, like I mentioned before, it's just an on-off true-false statement. That's all it is. Yes or no. There is int. Int is whole numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, so on. And then the last one is float. Those are kind of like your three basic primary value types. A float is a decimal. 0.2, 0.75, 1.5, anything that's not a whole number is a float. So toggling the on-off state of our tool shelves, let me put that back on there, is just a true-false, on or off. That's all it is. So we're going to do a bool value option description driver. We're going to go back again, button interactions, and button toggle. We're going to need two of those, one for the left hand, one for the right hand. So under context menu item source, rather than changing this label to just say the same thing over and over and over again, we're actually going to grab where it says label. We're going to drop that into the label field on the value option description driver. You can see now it's turned purple. That means it's being driven, which basically means that it's being affected by something other than itself. We're also going to take color We're going to drop color into the color slot on the value option description driver. We can see that's also being driven now too. Now, under here, in this very first section that we have, we see label, and I'm just going to call it tool shelf on. Tool shelf on, and I'm going to make the button for it green. So we can see that these driven values have automatically been updated. So the button itself is going to say tool shelf on, and the button is going to be green. I'm going to go down here to options and add a new one. And I'm just going to call this tool shelf off. So to save myself some time, I'm going to grab the name here, drop it there, and then just switch the N to 2 Fs. And then the color, I'm going to make that red. So what this is going to do effectively is when we turn our tool shelves off, the button's going to turn red. That's all we're doing, is this action right here. All right. So now we got to find the tool shelves on our avatar. The tool shelves live on your hand bone. So I grab armature, and we're going to go down our armature. We'll start with the left one just because it's the first one that we see. I'm going to refocus the hierarchy to the hand. And we're going to look for tool shelf anchor. So we found the tool shelf anchor. Like I said, it lives on your hand bone. And right now, the active is set to off. It's set to off because there's nobody inside the avatar. If I was to hop in, these would become active. Regardless, it doesn't matter. I'm going to grab this active. I'm going to come over to this tool shelf button that we made. I'm going to go down to the button toggle, and I'm going to drop it under one of the button toggles. And then I'm also going to drop it, if I can, not literally drop it, but I'm also going to drop it under the value on our value option description driver. When I do that, now you can see this button now says the tool shelf is off, and it's red because there's nobody inside it. Now I'm going to go up to our armature again, and I'm going to go to the right hand tool shelf. Oh, a little too far. Shoulder, lower arm. Let's refocus on the right hand. Tool shelf anchor. And then the active slot for the other hand, I'm just going to put that in the other button toggle. It may seem a little bit confusing because you're saying, well, we have 2 button toggles. Why wouldn't we have 2 value option description drivers? Because the value option description driver just tells the button what to say. So the context menu item source is the button itself, is this thing here. The value option description driver tells this button what it needs to display. So since we're turning both tool shelves on and off at the same time, we only need to tell the value option description driver when one of them is off, because we're going to work under the assumption that when one is off, the other one is going to be off as well. I hope that makes sense. But basically, these button toggles down here are what's actually turning the tool shelves on and off. The value option description driver is telling the button what to say based on the status of one of the tool shelf anchors. And since we have both of these button toggles running at the same time, we know that if one is off, both are going to be off. That's why we don't need 2 value option description drivers. So reset the IK position weight back to 1, so that way when I hop inside it, it actually moves and interacts. So I'm going to go ahead and hop inside it. And you can see we're now in our new avatar. Our tool shelves are currently off. We have, actually let me open the context menu. We have this new button here that says toggles. We have another button here that says tool shelves off. If we click it, it turns green, our tool shelves turn on, and any tools that you had equipped in one model will carry over to the other one. So we have tool shelf right here, I can grab it, put it back on, and then I can go here, hit this button again, the tool shelf turns off. Simple as. So let me hop back over into my other model. Okay, so we've got the toggle set up to turn our tool shelves on and off if we so desire. Let's make a toggle to take the jacket on and off. It's going to be the same concept, very similar concept. So we're going to come over to our inspector. We're going to go to this toggle slot that we created before, and we're going to create a new child. I typically will name this clothing. So let me go ahead and change that name. Clothing. Now under the clothing slot, we're going to go to attach component, Radiant UI, context menu, context menu item source, and context menu submenu. If you're just making a button that only does one thing, you don't need the context menu submenu. You would just build it just like we did with the tool shelf. The context menu submenu is what lets it kind of go down an additional level. So the label for context menu item source, I'm just going to name that clothing. I'm going to leave the color white. Context menu submenu, the item root is going to be the slot that it's on. So it's on this clothing slot that we made. Drop that under item root. That's it for this button. Now we're going to make a child for this button, and we're just going to name this jacket. And just like the tool shelf, we're going to build it the exact same way. So attach component, Radiant UI, context menu item source, back, common UI, button interactions. Or actually, let's get the driver first. Drivers, value option description driver. Again, it's just on off. That's all it is. So it's going to be a bool. There we go. And we're only toggling one active slot this time, not two like we did with the tool shelves. So we're only going to need one button toggle. We're going to close that. We're going to come over here, and just like before, we go label to label, color to color. The label on our first option is going to be jacket on. We're going to make that green. Could be whatever color you want, really doesn't matter. And then the label for our second option is going to be jacket off. We're going to make that red. And we're going to scroll down a little bit so we get our button toggle component. We are going to grab the accessory slot because that's where we stored the jacket. If you actually have the jacket slot itself, that'll work too. You just need to be able to get to that jacket slot where the skin mesh renderer is. You're going to grab the active slot. I guess I'm using that word a lot, on the jacket. So let me grab it again. We're going to drop it on the value of the value option description driver, and we're going to drop it on the target value of the button toggle, just like what we did with the tool shelves. And if we hop into this avatar, and let me make you third person so you can see hi, toggles, clothing, jacket on, jacket off. Right, so that's how you can do simple on-off stuff for your different meshes. Again, I got to refit these because I didn't save the changes that we made. So let me take us back into smooth POV, hop into this model. So that's how you do simple kind of one-to-one on-off, right? But as we went over in the last video, this outfit has two different tops, right? It has the t-shirt and then it has a tank top. So how can we cycle between those? We can cycle between those with what's called a bool switcher. It's going to get slightly more complicated, but it's going to be okay, I swear. So first things first, let me take off everything except for the shoes, the shorts, and the two shirts that are on there. So we're going to take off the plaid shirt and the jacket. If you have button toggles set up on a model, you can actually just hold on to it, open your context menu, and do it that way. There we go. So we can see that the jacket there has come off. We're going to go back under accessories. Let's just turn off the neckerchief and the tartan shirt for now. So we've got two different tops that we want to cycle between. I have both of them active, so you can see t-shirt is active and tank top is active. If I pull the model closer, you can see some Z fighting here where the two meshes are trying to kind of compete for which one's going to be on top. So we move the model back here, and we want the option to be able to cycle between them, right? So let's collapse the root node again and just kind of reopen it just to clean everything up and make it all nice and organized again. Under our root node, we're going to make a new child, and I'm going to call this clothing switcher, right? So I've gone ahead and I've made a new slot under the toggle slot that we made before, and I've named it clothing switcher. I'm going to go attach component, and under transform drivers, we have this thing called the Boolean switcher. So we're going to add that, and pull it a little bit closer here, and you can see it asks for targets and it has an active index. So we're going to open up our tops for the mesh renderers. We're going to go to t-shirt. For targets, we're going to add a new target, and for option 0, which is going to be our first option, we're going to grab the active on the t-shirt and drop it there. We're going to add another target and go under tank top and do the exact same thing, dropping underneath option 1, which in our case is our second choice on the bool switcher. You can add as many as you want. Like I mentioned before, the more meshes you have on your avatar, really kind of the less ideal because they still get added to memory, so try to keep this as light as you can. You can still use your heavy avatars, just I wouldn't go around in public worlds with incredibly heavy avatars. So we've added our targets to our bool switcher, and we're going to grab, or actually we're going to make a new child under the clothing button that we had made previously, and I'm just going to call this top, or tops, right? Whatever you want to name it, whatever applies to you. I'm just calling it that because we're going to be switching the active index on our tops. All right, so we named it tops, whatever applies to you. And if you see here, something funny has kind of happened. I had both of these slots active before, but when I added them to our bool switcher, tank top became inactive because the active index of the bool switcher is currently set to 0. Option 0 is the t-shirt. So when 0 is the active index, whatever is in this slot or this field is what's going to be active. Everything else gets deactivated. So we're going to go back to tops, and we're going to build another button here. So that starts with Radiant UI, context menu item source. I'm going to go back, common UI, drivers, value option description driver. But now since we're cycling between multiple values, and on the bool switcher they're whole numbers, 0 and 1, they're not decimals, and it's not just a simple on-off, we're going to use an integer or an int value option description driver. And we're going to go back to button interactions, and we're going to do button value cycle, and again we're going to do int. So just like before, on the context menu item source, label to label, color to color. Now for our label here, I'm going to call this t-shirt. Oh, help by, there we go, t-shirt. Make this whatever color you want. Let's make it blue. Options, we're going to add an option. I'm going to call this tank top. And I'm going to make the tank top button green. And there's something extra here that we need to pay attention to. Reference values. So this is going to end up referencing the value that we put here, which if we open up our clothing switcher, let me close that for now. We're going to take the active index, so this thing right here, and we're going to drop this under value, right? And you can see that very quickly had gotten updated. And right now you can see the button's a little jacked up. That's because both of these reference values are currently both set to 0. So the correct reference value for tank top is actually 1. So we're going to change that to 1. And you can see up here it's been updated. Down here, under button value cycle int, again, we're going to take active index, drop it into there, and we have to tell the button what the possible values are. So we're going to add 2, 0, and then we're going to change this one to 1. And that really should be it. So if I hop into this avatar here, take you into third person, we open here, clothing, t-shirt, tank top, t-shirt, tank top, t-shirt, tank top, right? And then let me take you into smooth POV so you can see how that looks. Clothing, tank top, t-shirt, tank top, t-shirt, tank top, t-shirt, right? So that's it. We've done 3 different things today. We've been able to set up toggles for our tool shelves using Boolean value option description drivers, simple button toggles. We use the exact same thing to get an on-off button for our jacket, and using a bool switcher and an integer value option description driver with an integer button value cycle, we've been able to set up a way to cycle between different tops. So I think I'm going to save full outfits for another video. I think this one was a little long. I think there was a lot in there. So in our next video, I'll import another outfit for this avatar and show you how you can set up for multiple outfits using a series of those Boolean switchers. But I think this was kind of heavy. It might end up being a little long. I'm going to give you guys a break. I hope this was helpful. As always, if you have questions, you can post them in the comments. I'll see you later. Bye.